What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. Break down what the technicals are suggesting, some very important updates about tomorrow, as we have some big news coming out and new developments on the charts. But before I begin into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends tomorrow, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market right now. So looking at the market, we saw quite a bit of selling today as we're continuing to see the sellers dictate how this market has been moving. There's also this news that came out about how the Dow has shed nearly 400 points in the worst day since March, as economic worries are once again returning. Part of this is because of the yield curves, which are once again pointing in the direction of a recession. Right over here, we can see it right here, the differential between the 3 months and the 10-year, which could be used. The 10-year is also once again remaining at these elevated levels, and it's once again having a very big effect on the market. Seeing these yields, seeing the yields hitting some of the highest levels we've seen since like the last 16 years, it's once again pointing that same direction that there is likely a big shift and contraction coming. And as a result of that, and as a result of the amount of fear that's now being added, in addition to some new economic changes and projections about the economy, fear is now driving this market. Right here, fear is driving the market. We're not at the extreme level yet, according to the chart, but we're getting very close to it. And then on top of all of this, I just want to mention that market momentum is still fearful. Stock price strength is extremely fearful. Everything is almost in the extreme fear area. Even the VIX is well above the 50-day moving average. You can see it right here. That's when the market tends to be in a significant downtrend, and that's what's happening so far. Once again, guys, junk bonds are just, in extreme greed mode right now, which tends to be bearish. And we're just continuing to see the market remain in this phase. Now, going into Wednesday, which is tomorrow, I just want to remind you all we don't really have any major data coming out. So there's no major data until Thursday and Friday when we have the initial jobless claims, Jerome Powell's speech, not to mention something else that's going to be big, which is going to be PCE data. So we have a lot of big things coming out for Thursday and Friday, but tomorrow is going to be a little cool on the data side. For today, when the data came out that caused the market to sell off a little bit more, would be the new home sales declining, the house price index remaining elevated, and the consumer confidence report showing a big decline as sentiment is shifting for the economy. So once again, consumers are becoming less and less bullish and excited in this economy, and people are starting to notice that their spending power is really declining. They can't just get into debt eternally. They can't just keep on using their credit cards endlessly because there's a limit to it, and eventually that debt has to be paid off. Eventually the debt has to be limited, and this is now affecting the lives of Americans as credit card companies are losing more than 3.5% when it came to their profits over the last couple of weeks. So very big declines have happened. We're starting to see big declines and slowdowns, and things are really shifting the economy. Now, looking at all this news that came out, I just want to mention that there's both a bullish and a bearish case. I'm going to talk about what's more likely so far. So if we want to turn bullish on SPY, it's very simple. We need to see this rebound and bounce off either 425, maybe a little bit lower than bounce, and try to get back above 428. If we achieve that, we could try to make our way back to 430. If we're bearish, we're going to see this thing continue to sell off and retest this 425 area and fail there and come all the way down, continue to remain bearish and start selling off to 422 or even below that. So how does this look? What is looking more likely in my opinion? The answer is the daily looks very bearish right now on SPY. There's no clear sign of a bounce just yet. The 4-hour chart just shows lots of selling. There's a small bullish divergence here, so we could gap up tomorrow, hit 427 just based off TA, but then we could continue to sell off because we're continuing to maintain a very bearish looking trend. If you look at the trend, we've been continuing to just sell off and sell off. We've seen very small and minimal bounces as the market's looking very weak. So with the bullish divergence, there could be a small bounce first, but overall this could be trumped by even more selling, which seems more probable. If we break 425 tomorrow, you're going to be watching 424.5, and then if we break below that, the 423 area is a real possibility. Then 422.5 below that. But my point is there's likely going to be more downside particularly around 422.5 is where we have strong support. That's the 200 EMA. So I do think there's a good chance of that being tested. So be very careful, guys. The market looks more bearish overall from a technical standpoint. We could gap up first and start selling off, but that's what seems more probable. Now, compared to the market, okay, compared to the market, Tesla is actually holding up quite decently. We had a nice bullish divergence here. It's still holding up nicely. If you want to be bullish on Tesla, we want to see this thing try to rebound and get above 248. If we hold it to 250, 252, and 255 are all possibilities. If we're bearish, you want to see it retest 240. If that fails us, then 238 is a possibility, then levels below that. As of right now, we're kind of in the middle because Tesla is very indecisive. It's been going back and forth and back and forth. It's very tight. So a big move is going to be coming soon. We're going to be watching to see which way this thing ends up breaking tomorrow. I'm not going to promise anything, but it does look like it's going to attempt to try to retest this high, maybe reject off of it. So it may gap up then reject. And we may just continue to see it trade sideways. But my point is, one of these days, okay, one of these days it's going to break one of these levels. Whichever way it breaks is going to determine which way it goes. It might try to get one more pump up just like today, then end up selling off. And I think that's very probable for tomorrow. But just to be safe, you want to be watching to see, can it hold 240 and does it stay below 248? If it breaks 248, we can start pushing more. If we break below 240, it's going to start sinking towards 238, 236, 235, and even 230 potentially. So I'm in the middle with Tesla. It looks very flat right now, so watch that very carefully. On Aapl, this is looking weak on the 4-hour time frame, but we're at support at 171.7. There's a bullish divergence, so Aapl may bounce and retest 173, but it could reject and start selling off again. If we hold above 173, we can turn bullish. If we break below 170, we're going to turn really bearish. What seems more probable? It looks like we're going to try to bounce a little bit, retest 173. We could reject to come down to this 200 EMA. I think 170.8 could be tested. So I could anticipate more downside for Aapl. I think that's very likely looking at the current trend. The triple Q, if you want to be bullish, you want to see it get above 358. If it does so, then 360 plus is a possibility. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 353 and come all the way down to 350. What seems more probable? Looking at the trend, it looks very bearish on the daily chart. Could gap up tomorrow, retest 355, then reject and start selling off towards 350. That seems a little bit more likely just based off technical analysis alone. Then finally, for Nvda got a rejection candle in the daily, so it's looking a little weaker now. And I would say that on the 4-hour time frame, Nvidia is still, once again, looking weaker. If you look at this trend, it's been continuing to downtrend. But it's showing some strength compared to the market. It's holding up quite decently. Today we got a nice pop towards this 430 area. We came very close to 430. We actually had 428 just below my target, and then it came right back down. Now, I am a little concerned about this because this setup looks like it could be forming a head and shoulders. This could be like a left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder could be forming if Nvidia does get some kind of bounce tomorrow towards this 423 area. If it rejects off that and starts selling off, that could be a head and shoulders, and we could see Nvidia start to sell off. That seems quite probable. So watch for a little bounce, a gap up in the morning, then some potential downside. There's a risk of 423 to be tested before another liquidity grab for more downside towards 420, 417, 415, and lower levels like that. We also have this gap down here. So if Nvidia does form a bearish divergence and start projecting, once again, if we get below like 415, there's a good chance we might come very close to filling this gap around this 410, around 410 or so. So like I said, guys, downside is imminent. It seems possible for Nvidia, but we want to watch for confirmation first. Microsoft is looking kind of in the middle, so watch for this thing to attempt to get back above 315 basically. If it does so and holds it, 317 is a possibility. If it pops a little bit, then rejects and breaks below 310, then 307.5 is another possibility. I'm just going to go over a couple of others before I end the video. AMD is looking a little weak as well, very flat right now. It could try to pop towards 97.3, then reject. It seems like it's just going to be stuck between 97 and 94. Very, very sideways price action. Now, the VIX is up 12%. This tells me that there's a good chance that the VIX is going to be down either tomorrow or the day after. There tends to be a high probability of that when we're up well over like 10% and we have this bearish divergence. We have a quadruple bearish divergence on the VIX, but there's no sign of it playing out just yet. So we want to be patient and see. The VIX could gap down to maybe cool down a little bit, then try to bounce, or it may try to hold up a little bit and then start cooling off. So you want to watch that very carefully. There is a quadruple bearish divergence that developed on it. So This could lead to downside for the VIX, but there's no signal just yet. If the VIX breaks below 18.31, I could see it coming down to fill this gap down here. We could see the 17s again. If the VIX starts breaking down towards the 50 EMA and starts selling off, it could be because of the market bouncing. It could happen soon, but as of right now, there's no true signal. So we want to watch the charts very carefully and see if that ends up being the case. So watch them carefully. If the VIX continues to sell off, then that could be a good sign for us. As of right now, we're not 100% sure yet. It's not giving us confirmation. The dollar is very flat. It's basically forming a bearish divergence, but it's holding 106 so far. If you want to be bearish on the dollar, you want to see it break below 106.05. If it does so, that could be bullish for the stock market. If it holds, then bearish outcomes are still a real possibility. So with that said, guys, I think I went over the majority of the tickers. Google's looking kind of flat right now. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, that's like one of the best time frames to look at. Google's looking a little weak. You can see it right here is kind of like bear flagging. And on the daily chart, it's still looking quite bearish. There's no true sign of a confirmed bounce. We want to get above 132 to turn bullish. If not, if 128 breaks again, we're going to see this thing start sinking towards 127. For Amazon, if we're bullish, you want to see it get above 128. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 125 to hit 122. And for Meta, if you're bullish, you want to see it hold above 300 to get to 302.5 plus. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 295 and start sinking towards 290 and even levels below that. As of right now, this is in the middle. It's very stationary, very flat. It hasn't really moved much for many days. So we're going to be watching this very carefully on Meta. But with that said, guys, for many tickers out there like Tesla, they're very indecisive, so we want to just wait and see what happens. We do look weak on the daily charts for many tickers, so I do anticipate more downside is a possibility, but watch the charts and wait for confirmations before we make any moves and before we confirm which way the market's going to go. So watch the levels I called out, do what you have to do, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for listening. Hopefully this was a very helpful video. Thank you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you, and peace out.